Well, who have you all played with, and what is your history of playing with folk? Well, one thing is I always wanted to do my own band, so most of the stuff I've done has been with my own ensemble. But over the years, I've played with different folk in different capacities, especially when I was doing a lot of the Fender stuff. And I would end up putting together little extemporaneous sets for the NAMM show, because Fender used to do pretty big productions where they'd have a big stage, and sort of they'd hire a rhythm section to come in and, or have me and my drummer play with different bass players, or sometimes we put together different bands. So, but over the years, some of my, as I start to, and then you forget all this stuff, and then it starts to come back to you. I remember the first time one of my big guitar idols was Lonnie Mack, and we did a show with Lonnie Mack. We did a few shows with Lonnie Mack. And he had me sit in. The second show we did with him, he had me sit in, and it was really, really an awesome thing. When you're up on stage playing with Lonnie Mack, going back, trading salvos of Axery, that's pretty fantastic. I was always a big Little Feat fan, and years ago, on my first couple of CDs that I put out, T. Lavitz from the Dixie Dregs played keyboards on it. And I was always a huge Dregs fan, and how that happened was that we were actually recording in a studio above a music store in West Allis, Wisconsin, a place called Uncle Bob's Music Center. And T was there doing, of all things, an Ensoniq clinic. And I was going in to do some recording, and I saw T. Lavitz, and I looked at him, and I go, T. Lavitz, I'm probably your largest fan. And he looked at me and goes, indeed you are. And we just connected immediately. The humor thing was just going. And I said, T, I'm doing a record upstairs. I could use little keyboards on stuff. Why don't you take a listen and see what you think? So he comes up, he's like, I'd play on this stuff in a second. I'm like, well, all right. So I actually flew him back the next week, because he was in the midst of doing a bunch of different clinics, yada, yada, yada. So he came in and played on my first 2 CDs. But we were buddies ever since then. And we did a tour. He was in a band called the Blues Busters, which was T. Lavitz, Paul Barrere from Little Feat, Catfish Hodge, Larry Zach on drums, and Freebo, Bonnie Raitt's old bass player, on bass. And my band, the Greg Koch and the Tone Controls aggregation, did a tour with them out here in Colorado. We did, 5 dates maybe. And after the first night, Paul asked me on stage to play with those guys, and we've been buddies ever since. And I'm a huge Little Feat fan, so to be, to make that acquaintance with Paul and maintain that friendship over the years, I've ended up sitting in with Little Feat on many different occasions. It would actually get to the point where they would come to town, and Paul would say, "Are you going to sit in tonight? What do you want to play?" And I would say, "Well, can we do this, this, and this?" And then I would always do that song Texas Twister, and Fred Tackett and I would do the guitar part in stereo. I'd play it a lot in the Wildwood videos when I'm on the number 4 position on a Strat. I often allude to Texas Twister. It was almost going to end up on a live record, but of course, as history would have it, it did not end up. So I could say, hey, I'm on a Little Feat record. But you know what? The universe conspired against me and said, you know what? That's not happening. So there you go. Some other folks that in the Fender frontier that I put together sets with. One year we did. Well, I ended up playing with Roscoe Beck, and that. Remember, after we played one song, he goes, "We should start a band," and we did. And as a matter of fact, I'm doing some gigs with Roscoe in April of this year down in Austin and Dallas. But Roscoe, of course, had played with Eric Johnson back in the day and was in Robin Ford and the Blue Line, and was Leonard Cohen's musical director, and so on and so forth. That same NAMM show, I played. Me and my drummer Johnny C played with Marcus Miller. I'd actually jammed with Marcus Miller quite a few times in the Fender environment, and that was extraordinary. Stu Ham, played some gigs with him, actually quite a few times with Stu Ham. And then my buddy Reggie Hamilton, we started doing some clinics together and some gigs. That's been a magnificent acquaintance and relationship over the years. One time we were at NAMM and we did a thing with, we certainly did one with Oscar Cartaya from Spyro Gyra. But we did a thing with Victor Wooten came up on stage and played with us, with T. Lavitz was playing keyboards, Tommy Breckline on drums, Did a thing with Brian Beller, did a few different things with Brian Beller and Nick DiVirgilio on drums from Spock's Beard. Oh boy, who else in those days of doing stuff? Did a thing with Andy Summers from the Police. Nils Lofgren, played some things with him. I've done some gigs with Robin Ford where we've played together. David Grissom. I actually did a gig at Antone's in Austin, and it was I played on one of Roscoe Beck's records, and for the CD release party, which was at Antone's, beautiful Austin. It was me and Eric Johnson on guitar. We played a couple different tunes where we kind of exchanged back and forth, some convivial musical fellowship, so that was great. I did some gigs with Buddy Miles back in the day. A couple 3 gigs, doing Band of Gypsy stuff and some of my tunes, some of Buddy's tunes that he did in his solo days. Played gigs with Hubert Sumlin, of course from Howlin' Wolf's band. Boy, it's all kind of just coming floating back to me here. I sat in with John Mayall's Blues Breakers with Buddy Whittington. Buddy would always start off the set, and I came up and played some tunes with him. Buddy's magnificent. Certainly played with my buddy Johnny A. I'm trying to think of some other folk that, boy, it's kind of eluding me at this point. But that's a good little cross-section. So, but most of the time my band, I mean, we used to open up for, I always find that funny, people say, oh, I played with this guy and this guy and this guy. I don't consider opening up for somebody playing with someone. When you're actually invited to play with them on stage and actually have to create a set of music, that's what I consider being able to say, oh, I played with that guy. But certainly we used to do shows with a ton of different people. But people that I've maintained friendships with as a result of doing shows with them, well, Joe Bonamassa, obviously, I've sat in with him many times and developed a rapport with him. Danny Gatton was someone that developed a rapport with after doing a show with him. Which of course was awesome. The Tower of Power guys, specifically the guitar player at the time was a guy named Carmen Grillo. We maintained friendship. Who the heck else? I'm sorry, my brain is just kind of going. A lot of different people over the years. We've opened up for Buddy Guy a million times, but I never harass him. I never want to go, hey buddy. Although my favorite story is my drummer at the time was packing up his drum stuff, and Buddy emerges from his dressing room, and my drummer goes, Buddy Guy, a living legend. Buddy Guy's opening up the door to the bathroom, and he goes, what I'm about to do is going to be legendary. And he walked into the bathroom, and I thought, does it get any better than that? Than a blues poop story? I don't think it does get any better than that. But anyway, so those are some of the folks. I can't remember all of them, but those are certainly a few. Sorry if I'm forgetting that we played together. I apologize. Not that anybody like that would be watching this video anyway. Maybe. I don't know. I doubt if people are going, I wonder if Greg mentioned us when we jammed. That would be strange. What? I didn't even notice. It's first video of the morning. I'm having a hard time. We'll see you cats in the flippity flop.